Well, welcome back. I made this video because I was inspired today, for want of doing anything else really, to make what's called a screen scraper. Now, an old friend of mine from Scotland, I wanted to send him an article, but he didn't want to click on the actual page. It's a newspaper one. He didn't want to click on the page because it's full of a whole lot of adverts and stuff, and I think you've got to have your cookies enabled before you can go there and so on. So he wanted the article, and he said perhaps what I could do is just copy the things. This isn't the article. Let's suppose it was. I could sort of do this and copy them and stick them into a Word file, and and then so I'd do that, and then have to do this one, and then I'd have to. So I wouldn't be able to get the pictures, of course. I could, but it would take even longer. There is this is called screen scraping, and there is software to do this. The first time I came across it was, I don't know, about 2005, almost 20 years ago, when I was working on my own. That was a sort of early AI program using an avatar and so on. It was quite a crude screen scraping thing, which worked off looking at the HTML of a file and grabbing the information. This does a similar thing, but I wasn't sure how to do it. In the end, I just ended up actually just there's another online thing that just converts straight to PDF, and well, that was easy. But the reason I didn't just use the scraping method was that the software was sort of limited in length to what you could process, and they wanted money off you to get the full article, and it would do maybe half of it, maybe, and that wasn't any good. So I just thought to myself, maybe I can have a go and write my own screen scraper and get some help from AI. So I went to chatGPT, and I think I went to the Copilot as well. And the first thing it came up with is this thing in Python called Beautiful Soup. And I immediately thought that it's a library. And I immediately thought I'd asked for the wrong thing. I was on the cooking. I'd asked for how to make some kind of dish or something. But it turns out that this thing called Beautiful Soup is the name of the library that can do all the screen scraping. And screen scraping is quite important nowadays as well, I would say, because in a lot of AI tools, you can think of Alexa and so on, you can ask it about the news and so on. And often if you ask it questions, it'll say, according to Wikipedia, and then it'll start talking about Wikipedia. But how can it do that if, just looking at a web page, there's so much stuff on a web page. If you look at this one, there's pictures and adverts everywhere. Where do you start? So it's got a little bit of intelligence built into it, obviously, that thing. Let me just get back to this. So anyway, it told me to use this thing called Beautiful Soup. And from that, it's not really that difficult to do, actually, once you've got the Beautiful Soup thing working. It sort of grew and grew from there, and I had a good play with it. And I ended up writing an interesting program, which you might be interested in, or app, of course, it's called nowadays. So perhaps it's better actually show you it working, and then you can perhaps I'll show you how it works. So let's just take this article from this newspaper. It's about an astronaut who died, I think, is it? Yeah. So I'm going to take that and run my program. First thing you'll notice is that beep comes up with it's not like a kind of C++ type stuff. It's written in Python, remember. Difficult to move these things. There. This doesn't do much. It's just like the main form, if you like, the main window. But in here, I'm going to put the URL. I'm just going to paste it, put it in there, click OK. And that's telling me, the beep's telling me to enter more information. So it wants me to enter an MP3 file name. So what it's going to do is save this as a text file, the information, and as an audio file as well. I've added that in later. So I'll just call it out.mp3. There we go. And it says please wait. I'll minimize this one. So it's a little bit of a wait because it can take a while to do the text to speech. So I'll probably pause the video and come back again because otherwise we'll be waiting for. Okay, so it's taken quite a few minutes there to do that. Now I'll enter the file name for the text and just call it out.doc. You can create an ordinary text file if you want. I'm going to create it in Word anyway, the old Word format. And here are the two files. So first of all, the Word one, because I've given it the extension .doc, it's actually a Unicode file, but if you just click OK, then we've done actually. I'll just select it all and then just do some formatting on it to make it look a little bit better with the bigger font so you can see it. And there's the screen scraped information from that web page, just to show that it is. Starts here, retired American astronaut William Anders, and here it is here, retired American astronaut William Anders. What it's done is it's taken all the adverts and everything. We don't want to see that, got rid of them. Now here's an audio file it's created.
By James Gordon for dailymail.com. Has died after his small plane was an old model that had been flying from north to south when it crashed down into the water and sunk. The plane that crashed was a vintage Air Force Beech T-34, a Mentor that belonged to Anders, who was a resident of San Juan County, Station Bellingham, Air Station Port Angeles. Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Coast Guard are responding with search and rescue.
Anyway, that's the operation of it. It doesn't sound that great, really, does it? But that's just the Google text-to-speech. There are better engines than that. I'm not sure whether you can use them in Python, but even the ones I used 20 years ago were pretty good. Sounds like that's coming from the web page. So I'm just going to go back to my program and explain it a little bit, what it does, but very briefly. The first thing I'd like to say is that using AI was much better than just using Google. The AI was much more focused and gave me examples straight away, whereas using Google I could get to help pages, but of course it's full of people asking questions and saying I tried this code and it didn't work, what's wrong with it? And then you've got to go through that and somebody saying what's wrong with it and then somebody correcting it, and often it's not exactly, it takes longer than you wanted to take. Whereas the AI was a great way. It's like having an expert sitting next to you, which is what they claim actually. So these are the libraries it uses, the Beautiful Soup one and one for the paid. These are standard libraries. tkinter is used for the forms, if you like, that's used in this like in a form in Visual Studio, the same sort of thing. So that's the root window it's called, but that's a form. This just creates the size of the window, and that's just a label that it creates. This is a sound, just creates a beep and it's set up here. That's just a Windows beep, and it loads the library from WinSound. I could have used other methods. You could use a WAV file, but when you use WAV files, you've got to watch your the paths always, especially if you compile it. You've got to be careful, because the paths can change. You need to use environmental variables, and so it's a bit more complicated to do that. So it gives a beep, and then you input the URL for the screen scraper. And then that's the beautiful soup, which I always thought was something to do with recipes. That's the one that does the screen scraping, and it does it by going to the HTML of the page. So as I say, it can't really, well, hopefully can't do it on a secure page. You could try it and see what it did. I'm imagining that these web crawlers, whatever they're called, probably uses similar things so that for Google, but I'm not really sure. And then it extracts the data, and then it had to put this in to create a long text string for the data that it got, and it's text plus equals p.get text. So that's getting the data in paragraphs out of the web page, and then it's doing a text-to-speech thing, but it doesn't actually speak in real time. It just puts it to a file. I'm guessing you can do the real-time speaking thing, and that's what I did in the past, but it's probably quicker not to. You don't want to listen to the whole thing unless you really want to. Just stick it on a file and listen to it later. And then you need to work out the paths and so on. So you find the home directory, and then it what does it do here? Yeah, then you add on. Then you create a directory to put the files in, which I put under downloads, and then called it Screen Scraper underneath that. And I just put in all the information in there, but you could put it anywhere. I did try to put it on the desktop, but it wouldn't let me do that. I think it's a permissions thing. I'm not really sure, but I imagine it's to do with permissions. Even running it in the supervisor kind of mode didn't make any difference. The rest, again, just working out paths and so on, stitching the file to the download directory path, which was download / screen scraper, and then / the file name. So you've got to sort of add them together, and then you write the text into the file, whatever file name you've given. It's not very big program, as you can see. So in case you hadn't heard of a screen scraper, that's what a screen scraper is. I can't tell you, of course, what's in this beautiful soup thing. Maybe that information is somewhere else, and you can have a look at that. But there are situations where it could be useful, and as I say, when I wanted to use it today, I used to want to use a screen scraper. The one that was available online wouldn't take the length of information that I had unless you paid money and got the sort of professional version or something. It would only do very short pages, and that's why I decided to have a look at one to see what the state of technology is at this time. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.